We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Friday Farcast. This is Robert Phoenix, and I will be with you for as long as I can be with you today. I'm flying solo because, well, that's just the way it is sometimes. Although what I wanted to do today is, I wanted to work with this whole notion of the equinox and balance, because it's a very interesting time that we're in right now in terms of the precession of the equinoxes, number one, but also the precession of the seasons itself, number two. And we arrive tomorrow at, from where I sit, 1:49 in California, 10:49 on the East Coast, and do the math elsewhere for other parts of the planets for the arrival of fall. And what's really interesting about the equinox is that everywhere, except on the poles, everywhere on the planet, the sun rises at 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night, local time. And that is a fact, Jack, everywhere. It is a fascinating experience where we're all linked together in one unified rising and setting of the sun. So tomorrow we get to experience fullness and oneness. And how do we do that? Well, we bring things into our lives to not necessarily complete who we are, but to complement who we are. And there's a difference between completion and complementarianism. Completion is, the notion of completion is that we are in something, that there's a deficit in our lives and that we need something or somebody to fill that hole or fill that gap. And complementarianism is that for the most part we're whole, and that what we're bringing into our lives complements who we are and what we do and why we're here. And hopefully we're complementing those aspects as well. So the equinox is an opportunity to experience a complementary relationship with yourself, with your family, with your friends, with your lovers, with your community, with the planet, with the cosmos. And part of the thing, one theme that I wanted to bring up today, and I'm going to get to what we can theoretically do as during our time together, is to begin to have this notion, and it's a radical notion, but it's a notion that we as a planet and we as a species are ready to enter into some complementary relationship with the universe and with a greater cast of characters at large, meaning extraterrestrial species, extraterrestrial intelligence, extraterrestrial culture, extraterrestrial influence, that this is really a time where we can begin to look at ourselves as not the poor redheaded stepchild of the galaxy, but a conscious and aware race that wants to move beyond the dominator paradigm that is right now encircling the planet and its tentacles. So I think it's important for us to realize that, hey, yeah, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready to make that leap. I'm ready to make that leap. Are you ready to make that leap? Are you ready to take it to the next level? To meet our destiny, our future, our present in a synchronistic and symbiotic moment of time? I'm ready. Because I'll tell you what's the alternative? What's the option? Well, the alternative, the option is that we get to deal with these knuckleheads, and their feverish plan to lock everything down without a whole lot of support. And I think we need the support. Theoretically, they have networks, right? They have societies, networks, schools, NGOs, you name it. They've got it. They're intertwined, internecine, and they get to work together. Not always together, but they get to work towards a similar goal. And what do we have? Who do we have? What are our networks? Well, we have invisible networks, and we have networks we don't even know about yet that we haven't fully discovered. So let's embrace those networks. Let's embrace them as a complementary aspect of who we are. The invisible, the divine, the extraterrestrial who are working in our favor towards this. So this is part of what today's show is about, is to address some of these issues of complementarianism. We'll get into the equinox and what that means, and where the planets will be and all that stuff. But I'm just setting the tone. I'm setting the tone. I'm setting the intention for the show that we are going to invoke for the next 365 days, starting tomorrow, a balanced and I always have a hard time with this word, equanimous relationship with our lives and the countless unseen lives and life forces that we work with on a daily basis. Let's bring them into balance. Let's bring them into accord. Let earth rise up to heaven and heaven descend to earth. This is where we are. So today is a celebration of that. We're not here to quote about the doom and gloom, or to wallow in the doom and gloom that is encircling us right now, because it's quite easy to do. And maybe we can pick that back up on Monday, or maybe not. But here we are going to make a stand. We're going to make a stand in space and time when everything and all things considered are equal. So this is our time for equal time on an equal plane of experience and expression. So let this show today at least be an invocation towards that for you and for everybody else that you know. Let's bring it all into balance. Things are out of balance. They're out of balance. I was, people know this, I'm a sports fan. And by the way, I got to give big ups to my boy Darren over in Liverpool, who stays so on top of American sports, it's not even funny. He and I have been having a very symbiotic connection and relationship. If you don't know who he is, you can follow him on Twitter, Darren Williams. You can follow him on Facebook, Darren Williams. He's one of my friends. He's a great guy. He's a font of information. He's a two of clubs like me, the conversation card. So when we get on Skype, man, these Skype sessions last at least an hour, maybe more. But Darren sent me. This is how dialed into American sports Darren is. Darren sent me, before any of my American friends, he sent me a clip of a quarterback who plays for the San Francisco 49ers, Alex Smith, who I believe is the descendant of Joseph Smith, even though a lot of people don't talk about this. I believe he's a descendant of Joseph Smith. And what's interesting is that Steve Young, who used to play for the 49ers as well, is a descendant of Brigham Young. So here we have Young and Smith playing quarterback, the two founders of Mormonism for the San Francisco 49ers. Anyway, Alex Smith last year at a press conference after a game was wearing a San Francisco Giants hat. And we're talking a year later now, and it comes out that the NFL was going to fine him $15,000 for wearing that hat. Why? Because it's not NFL regulated merchandise. He can only wear a San Francisco 49ers hat when he does a press conference. And how much were they going to fine him? They were going to fine him $15,000. $15,000 for wearing a baseball cap. Think about that. Think about how ludicrous that is. It speaks to the imbalance of our time. Well, there's more imbalance. There's greater imbalance. There's imbalance that is egregious imbalance. We might address some of those today. In fact, we might even have a segment. I will open the phones in about, let's say, 18 minutes, okay? So at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to open the phone lines, and you can call in, and you can tell me where you do not have balance, where you see an egregious imbalance in the world around you. Let's get it out. Bring it out. Let's get it out. Let's cast it off. Let us burn the imbalance in an effigy, a collective effigy, in real time between you and I, consciously. Let's burn it. Burn it down. And let's invoke balance. Let's invoke some real balance in our lives. You know, people think balance is boring. Everything is balanced. It's boring. No, it's not boring. When you get to a state of really interesting and rich homeostasis, well, that's when things can really cook. Now you've got everything around you. Now you've got all your materials. Now you've got, you don't have to be on this roller coaster of ups and downs. I mean, those ups and downs are going to happen anyway, and you're going to have to deal with them. But if you're balanced, well, you get to deal with them from a very different place. You ask yourself, well, how do I want to deal with this? I've just had something really intense happen in my life. What do I do? How do I deal with it? Where do I go with it? How do I navigate through this? What's in it for me to understand and to learn from? That is really, the most intelligent and the most evolved place that balance can be. And you're speaking to a guy that's got 3 planets in Libra, so I'm an advocate of this. Now, somebody who has 3 planets in Aries might say, screw balance. I am balance. Everybody else is imbalance. Just follow me. Well, that's a whole nother discussion and topic. But that's not the spring equinox. No, this is the fall equinox. So we're addressing balance. At the bottom of the hour, I will encourage you to call in. And if there is some imbalance, either in your life or you see in the world around you, you can bring it up and we will cast it off. We'll cast it off. That is part of what we're going to be doing here today. So Alex Smith, $15,000 for a stupid baseball cap. Now, he can afford it. The guy's got about $50 million in the bank. So he could probably wear that hat after every single press conference for the rest of his career. And you know what? It really wouldn't make that much of a dent in his overall wealth. He's a Taurus. What do you expect? But that's where we are right now. And that is a minor piece. I'll tell you a major piece that's happening right now is here in the state of California, Jerry Brown, Aries, Mr. Hey, I don't really believe in balance. I believe in doing what I want to do, and screw you. I'll tell you a story about Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown was the mayor of Oakland. And one of the things that Jerry Brown was noted for was hiring lots of cops. That was his big addition to his political career, his pit stop in Oakland as mayor of Oakland. He hired lots of cops. What did he do? He got a bunch of money from the federal government, and he infused that money into the Oakland Police Department. And did he make Oakland safer? I don't know. He got a lot more cop jobs. But I'll tell you what he did do. There's a team that I follow here called the Oakland A's. And this will give you an idea. Jerry Brown, by the way, is a Jesuit. He was trained at the University of Santa Clara in Santa Clara, California, which is one of the centers of Jesuits higher education in this country. There are others, Loyola Marymount. The Jesuit school system was set up here. Cal State, I don't think Cal State Dominguez is a Jesuit school, but there's a whole series of Jesuit schools. St. Mary's is another one over in Moraga. They were all part of ultimately an outgrowth of the mission system. University of San Diego, not San Diego State, University of San Diego, the Toreros. That's also a Jesuit school. So we have the Jesuit educational system set up along with the mission system here in California. Anyway, Jerry Brown was educated in Santa Clara. His father was Pat Brown, governor of California. And Jerry Brown in the 70s was called Governor Moonbeam because he was so out there. He did yoga. Woo! Boy, how out there was that. Jerry Brown also presided, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, over the spraying of paraquat. I believe it was paraquat. Is that what it was? He was spraying. It was paraquat. What they spray. He was spraying on crops. Not even crops. He was spraying on trees and local vegetation all throughout the state of California. And it wasn't paraquat. It was He was spraying. It'll come back to me. He was spraying in the late 70s because of there was a fruit fly. It was a fruit fly that they were trying to kill. Some fruit fly that had been introduced into the region, the bioregion, and so they would have these helicopters and these planes that would spray. Why does somebody always call me during my show? I hate that. I should turn my phone off. Anyway, you'd get up in the morning and there'd be this resinous goo on your windshield. And so he presided over this. So anyway, he wound up eventually becoming mayor of Oakland. And I followed the Oakland A's. And they desperately need a new stadium. Oakland as a city needs a reinvestment in its infrastructure. So what have a number of cities around America done in order to reinvest in their infrastructure? Maybe it's not the most enlightened project, but they've built baseball stadiums in downtown areas or areas that were, kind of on the edge, and they revitalized those areas. Businesses sprouted up around those areas, condos. Like, for instance, if you were to look at where Camden Yards is in Baltimore, it's totally revitalized Baltimore. If you look at where, even to a lesser extent, Pac Bell Park or AT&T Park is where it's in San Francisco, that area, while it wasn't necessarily decrepit, it was underdeveloped. And now it's the Silicon Gulch, and you've got the giant stadium, the giant stadium down there. They could have done the same thing with Oakland. And what happened was, and I'll break this out for you. The owner of the Oakland A's, he commissioned stadium reports, and he got these two people who were very good at launching stadiums. They had plans. They had the area of the stadium all marked off, ready to go. It was near Jack London Square. You could have gotten to the stadium by boat. How cool would that have been? To come from San Francisco and take the boat right there up to the stadium in Oakland. And it was on the edge of West Oakland, which is where they have the port. Not a great area. Very underdeveloped in terms of its finances and its income. And there could have been that stadium there. What happened? Jerry Brown took that land. He took that land and he essentially sold it to one of his buddies who built low-income housing on that land, and then he slapped a gag order on the A's and everybody else that was related to that project. It was political cronyism at its worst. Typical Aries political cronyism at its worst. Well, what is he doing now? He's in his second term as governor of the state of California, presiding over the greatest budget deficits in the history of the state, even though what they won't tell you is that there are two sets of books for the state. There's the public and the private set. You can look this up. A fellow by the name of Walter Burian. I've talked about him on the show before. He's gotten into CAFR, C-A-F-R, CAFR. And essentially what CAFR is, it's the secret budget for the state of California. And the state of California is rich, filthy rich beyond its wildest dreams. And all they'd have to do is eliminate about maybe an eighth of the assets, and they could completely zero out the budget. And this is what Jerry Brown is presiding over. Well, I'll tell you what Jerry Brown is presiding over right now. He's about to take away religious and philosophical exemptions for children with vaccinations in schools in California, okay? And if this happens in the state of California, there will be a domino effect across this country. And they're getting ready to vote on this right now. Now, do you think Jerry Brown is going to have some moment of conscience? The man trained at a Jesuit school, Aries, I think he's going to sit and go, you're right. A man without children, by the way. Let's factor that into the mix. No children. You think he's going to have a moment of conscience and say, yeah, you're right. Let's not vaccinate these kids. Let's give parents the freedom of choice to let them be parents. No, what is he going to do? He's going to follow the money because there's big bucks in vaccinations. Trust me. They figured out and more and more kids, by the way, are not getting vaccinated. That's the dirty little secret. And guess what? They're healthy. And they don't want you to know that either. They're healthy. Now, people that look, if you vaccinated your kid, that's your business. And I hope your kid is healthy and stays healthy, and can transcend whatever's in those vaccines. I wouldn't do it. I didn't do it. But this is where it is right now with the state of California. So this is my imbalance. This is what I'm bringing into this equation of imbalance. What we have right now at a state level in the state of California is an autocratic leader who is essentially an emperor or a tyrant in democratic and progressive robes. And he's always been this way. He's always been this way. And it's an imbalance. It's an imbalance that one man could have so much power while the people of the state, have been shown, unless of course it is some, really important issue like same-sex marriage. Well, in that case, boy, the people don't have the power because they didn't vote for it. And yeah, a judge will overturn it, and there it is. So it all depends on, what the program is and what the agenda is. In that case, boy, people really have the power, even if they don't have it at all. So we're going to get into addressing what's imbalanced in your life or in the world around you, or the world, the greater world as it is. And hopefully 365 days from now, as we've done this little exercise we're about to embark in, that is true, that you have invoked balance, fairness, equality, liberty, synergy, synthesis, all these things that are really where we're at right now. As a planet, those qualities are paramount. They're paramount, and we need them more than ever. So this is a time where we can do that. All right, we got about 5 minutes before we open the phone lines. Let me just get into a little bit the equinox itself. This is from Wikipedia. I'm just going to read you this paragraph here. It says, on a day of the equinox, the center of the sun spends a roughly equal amount of time above and below the horizon. So we are linked planetarily. This is it. Tomorrow is that day. At every location on the Earth, night and day being of roughly the same length. The word equinox derives from the Latin words equus, which is equal, and nox, which is night. In reality, the day is longer than the night at an equinox. Commonly, the day is defined as the period when sunlight reaches the ground in the absence of local obstacles. From the Earth, the sun appears as a disk rather than a single point of light. So when the center of the sun is below the horizon, its upper edge is visible. So it's kind of like the sun is split between the northern and the southern hemispheres, which is interesting. Furthermore, the atmosphere refracts light, so even when the upper limb of the sun is below the horizon, its rays reach over the horizon to the ground. So it says here, in sunrise-sunset tables, the assumed semi-diameter apparent radius of the sun is 16 minutes of arc. and the atmospheric refraction is assumed to be 34 minutes of arc. The combination means that when the upper limb of the sun is on the visible horizon, its center is 50 minutes of arc below the geometric horizon, which is the intersection with the celestial sphere of the horizontal plane through the eye of the observer. These cumulative effects make the day about 14 minutes longer than the night. So how did they get there? Well, what they did is they did a little math there, right? They did a little math. And that was the 50-minute arc with the 34 minutes of arc. So, yeah, they just did some math. Okay, so the cumulative effects make the day about 14 minutes longer than the night at the equator and longer still towards the poles. The real equality of day and night only happens in places far enough from the equator to have a seasonal difference in day length of at least 7 minutes, actually occurring a few days towards the winter side of each equinox. I hate that. I hate that. So anyway, that's where we are. In the half year centered on the June solstice, the sun rises and sets towards the north, which means longer days and shorter nights for the northern hemisphere, and shorter days and longer nights for the southern hemisphere. In the half year centered on the December solstice, the sun rises and sets towards the south. Durations of the day and night are reversed. We know that. The equinox is at one point in time where we reach a perfect symmetry, an absolutely perfect symmetry. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play a brief piece of music, and I'm going to check my phone because sometimes it's important. Maybe it's my kid. Maybe he's got sick or something. Let me play this. This is Jorge Reyes, dear departed friend, who is a Libra, by the way, and his birthday is on the 24th of September, which is just 2 days out from now. So let me play this for Jorge, and let me bring the southern hemisphere into the north, and let me just check my phone messages very quickly. And when I come back, we're going to get into redressing the imbalances in your life and in the universe. This is El Sendero, Jorge Reyes. That was Jorge Reyes, El Sendero Espiral, which is the spiral path. And he is spiraling towards new and greater shamanic dimensions. The great sound shaman, Jorge Reyes. Okay, let's get into this now. Let's open up the phone lines and let's address, redress, balance, and equanimity in your life and in the world around you. Good morning. You're live and on the air with Robert.
Hey, Robert. Just wondering, how to handle the energies of the equinox.
Well, what's your sign?
I'm a Cancer, Leo rising, Scorpio moon.
Okay. So, depending upon the degree, when were you born? What's your date of birth?
June 25th, 1950. I'm 3 degrees Cancer.
So,
and I have a Grand Trine water.
Okay. So the first thing that I would do if I were you is I would be as close to water or in water as possible. It's your element.
Okay.
I know where I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm going to be in water. I have Mars in Cancer, and I have Mars in the 8th house. So I want to spend tomorrow in water. So I would be around as much water as possible. It's inspiring. You want to stay inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is that your sun won't be squaring well, it would be, wouldn't it? Because it's the early degrees of Libra. So your sun will be squaring the transiting sun. So I think for you, what you want to be able to do is the thing with Cancer is it's an extremely sensitive sign.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be able to strike a balance between being open and available tomorrow and being social, while at the same time having some time alone for yourself. So, I think, spend half the day, socializing and half the day with, people or friends or family. Because also Mercury is quite early in the sign of Libra, so you're going to get a Mercury Sun square at the same time. And also the moon tomorrow moves into Capricorn.
So my opposite.
You're going to have a moon Sun opposition. So you need to spend some quality alone time and be okay with that. Just remember that that's going to bring balance into your life. And do that first. I don't know what your schedule is like for tomorrow, but do it first. and then once you have filled your cup, then you can go out and essentially quench the thirst of others. That's kind of how it works, and it should work really pretty essentially for you. And one of the things too is that this is the beginning of the new year in some traditions.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. This is the beginning of the new year. For instance, in the Greek Orthodox tradition, this is the beginning of their new year. Because when we look at September, right, September is the 9th month.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then we move into October, which is the 1 vibration.
10-1.
And October is also the Omega. It is the Omega. When you look at the sign of Libra, the top of the sign of Libra is the Omega symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at Aries begins with the letter A, and some of the symbols of Aries represent the Alpha, which is the spring. So we're now engaged in the Alpha and the Omega is the end, and after that we move towards the beginning. So this is in some ways very much like the new year. So you can set the tone in a state of balance and equanimity for the next 365 days. You set the intention, right, tomorrow. And for you, it would be trying to find that sweet spot between being able to, soak up and have some really powerful and profound personal time, and then go out and then be able to share yourself from a place of depth and true nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's how I would. And because you're a Cancer, and you've got Scorpio on your moon, this whole notion of reproductive organs, sexuality, birth, these all come into play for you as well. And I know this sounds really, really trite, but I would do something around eggs, believe it or not. I mean, you can actually balance the egg on the equinox. You can stand an egg on its side and it will balance. Most people know this and try this. And
yeah, I've done it on the spring. I've never done it on the fall.
Yeah, it'll balance. Same thing. So because you're connected to birth and cycles of birth, do something with eggs. At the very least, have eggs, but be conscious of the eggs that you're having, or maybe have a different kind of egg. Maybe have a quail egg, or create a ritual that makes you aware of the cycles of life and birth and death and rebirth, which are all very much a part of who you are in terms of your charts. And you could do that, very, in the privacy of your own home, whatever that is, in terms of how you work that out. And these symbols are very powerful. This is what Edward Bernays realized very early on, using these symbols, especially the symbol of the egg, to get inside the head of American housewives during the 1950s. Most people know this, but just in case you don't, or some people don't, one of the reasons why we eat bacon and eggs for breakfast is because Edward Bernays worked with the farmers who were producing eggs and pork, and they were not really selling a lot of eggs and pork. And so what Edward Bernays did is that Edward Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
He understood Freudian psychology, and he understood the power of the egg. And so they went on a major advertising campaign, and not just because he was very smart. He was like smart with an evil side because of what he did with fluoride and some other stuff. But he actually, would hire doctors to do these. This is where we got this whole notion that doctors and scientists could provide, expert analysis and bring us data that would, somehow, move the needle, and these things would be good for us. And that's what he did. It was a combination of advertising, marketing, and quote unquote experts' opinion that, eggs were good for you, a hearty breakfast, because at that time people were doing stuff like, toast or coffee, or they'd grab a piece of fruit. Breakfast was not that big of a deal in America. And thanks to Edward Bernays, now we eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. So this is the power of the egg, and you have that as it's part of your astrological DNA with your moon and your sun sign. So do something, take the power back. Do something interesting with an egg, tomorrow, and you cook it in a different way, or be conscious of it, or try a different kind of egg, or plant an egg in your backyard with, maybe you have a fall crop. If you're a gardener and you want to plant some fall veggies, maybe you want to, do some, some of the kale, or, some of the fall, winter veggies. Plant an egg next to it, and, be conscious of it. So that's for you astrologically. That's how I would work with the energies of the equinox.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for calling in and adding your energy to this time of balance.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to My Key Heart 1. Hey, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, Robert. Thank you for taking my call.
No worries. So, what would you like to bring up or talk about in terms of balance, redressing balance, imbalance? This is your time to bring balance into this moment with me and everybody else.
Okay, what I'd like to talk about is how difficult lately it has been actually for me to ground. And so my balancing is like I'm, literally dancing on the head of a pin or something. It's constant movement almost.
Well, I think, in situations like that, you've just got to let go. And the balance at that point is, finding your way amidst chaos and being, really okay with it. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but what options do you really have? I mean, if this is what life is giving you right now, then probably the best thing that you can do is to accept it and to find balance within that influence or that maelstrom. I have a friend who, and she was on my show last year. Her name is Linda. Some of you may remember her. And Linda is a very interesting person. She was in a marriage for about 10 years. And she's older. Linda just turned, I believe she's 12 years older than me. So Linda just turned 63. And in her 62nd year, her husband, who is, he is 4 years younger. Yeah, 4 years younger than she is, decided that he didn't want her in his life. Okay? Yeah. So, she spent that time, she had to move out, and she's literally been kind of couch surfing and dog sitting and doing all these things in order to keep her life alive and to stay afloat. And I got to tell you, this woman has done an amazing job at staying balanced throughout all of this. And do you know what I think the key to all this has been for her?
What's that?
She has slowed things down.
Uh-huh.
She has just taken time to do things that slow the flow of events down. Like she walks dogs. She dog sits. She house sits. So she'll take dogs out. She goes on these long walks to slow things down so that she can, be with the changes and be with the chaos in a way that's much more organic or much more in alignment with organic time. And I think that that's been a real godsend for her. She's just found a way to pace herself while she hasn't had a base or a root to work from. So that's another strategy that you may want to think about, is just find ways to slow your everyday life down while you're in a place where there's tons of change. Look, everybody, I'm not saying everybody's going through what you're going through, but we're all going through some form of intense chaos, and we can see this with the square between Uranus and Pluto and the outer planets. This is a major square between two heavyweight powers that we haven't seen in quite some time. And and I got into this on Wednesday's show, and the squares, what happens with the squares is it produces sparks, it produces intensity. It's grinding. It's the grinding of matter on matter. And when that happens, things get very, very intense. People's lives get shaken up and shaken out. And, for people that are already in a place of sort of semi-chaotic flow where, they're not living, a 3 squares, 2.3 kids family life, you're kind of ahead of the curve. And you're kind of learning how to deal with this state of flux before the masses are dealing with it, because the masses are going to deal with it. Trust me. When food prices go through the roof in the first part of 2013, you're going to see massive chaos. So you're learning how to navigate through this right now, and you're going to be in a place where everybody else is losing their fucking minds, and you've already been acclimated in some ways to mutability in your life. So my advice, if you're asking for it, is to be with it, to be okay with it, to find balance within in and of itself. And I'll give you what's worked for my friend Linda, is to slow things down in your own way. Find things that allow you to at least participate in some level of organic time. And that, I think, will help. What's your sign?
I'm an Aries with a Scorpio rising, moon in Capricorn.
Okay, so what degree Scorpio rising are you?
I'm not sure. I know I'm 0 degrees Aries, though.
You're 0 degrees Aries. So, 0 degrees Aries is really, really powerful. 0 degrees Aries is the start of everything. You know, it begins the entire chart. You know, I talked about the alpha and the omega, you know, during the last call, and you are the alpha. You know, so chaos for you, how you deal with chaos is, you know, don't think about it. You know, Aries is not about thinking. Aries is about doing. You know, it's not about contemplation. So I'm going to do this now, especially at 0 degrees Aries. I am going to take a walk now. I am going to spend time down by the river now. I'm going to walk down to the cafe and have an iced green tea now. It's all about the now for you. It doesn't get much more now than 0 degrees Aries. So for you, the moment is really critical. It's really important. You know, so the chaos and the upheaval is really tertiary, secondary, tertiary to your own consciousness. You, and I say you, more than any other sign and any other person of your sign, are determinant of how you are going to experience that moment for you. And you have amazing power over your moments. You have more power over your moments than almost any other sign in any other degree. Trust me on this. So
okay.
Like, what do I want to do now? Now that I know this about you and your sign, how do you deal with it? It's right now. It is what's important to you right now. And in that moment, and in that moment of awareness, that is what you do. Okay? And that is a very personal moment. Now, in terms of Saturn, depending upon where your ascendant is, Saturn is likely going to be cruising through your 12th house for a little while. And that's and I talked about this, I talked about it on Wednesday's show to somebody that really didn't want to hear it, but the Saturn transit of the 12th house, especially in Scorpio, is one of the most powerful transits a person can go through, because the Saturn 12th house transit takes us out of our day-to-day world, and it forces us to understand the nature of our soul, which we get to through the 12th house. So you, with Saturn transiting through your 12th house, I would say that it is actually a blessing that you don't have maybe a steady routine or a steady regimen to deal with, because that Saturn in Scorpio in the 12th house demands that you get out of, you know, this synthetic time that we're experiencing right now. So do whatever it takes to do that. My friend, I don't know where you live, but one of the things that my friend Linda has done is that here in California, there's a place which is near, I think it's near Yosemite. It's a Vipassana retreat that is free.
Oh.
It's totally free. But guess what? You can't talk. It's a vow of silence for a whole week. You can just go there. They will feed you, but you have to commit to not talking and following their schedule, which is getting up at the crack of dawn and, you know, doing meditation and going about and helping the community. And whenever she gets out of balance and she wants to get into organic time, she goes to this place. And apparently these places are starting to crop up more and more. So one of the things that I would suggest that you do is to do a little search on the internet and find Vipassana retreats. Where do you live?
I'm in Southern California, actually.
You could get to this place. It would take you maybe about a day by car. Look it up. I tell you what, if you can't find it, send me an email, robertphoenix@robertphoenix.com, and I will find the information out for you, and you can go hunt this place down, and you can go spend a week there. Some people spend up to 3 weeks there, by the way. So this is one of the things that she does, again, to slow her world down. And with Saturn transiting in your 12th house, you need experiences like these, especially in Scorpio. Because Saturn in Scorpio in the 12th house is really about understanding what power is at a transcendent level. It's not power in the personal sense. It's power like in the sense of your soul, or in the sense of your higher self, You know, where does the power really reside? You know, that's what Saturn and Scorpio is, and you need to get in touch with that power.
That's interesting because I've really been searching to make contact with that.
Well, this is that time. So look for that retreat. They may have something similar in Southern California. Again, these things are free. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to agree to not talk for 7 days and eat vegetarian food and wake up when they do and do a few things that they ask you to do. And then, you know, get in touch with that. I think it'd be good for you. If you can't find it, then send me an email and I'll get you the information, okay?
Okay, thank you, Robert. I sure will.
All right, take good care.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, you're live and in the moment. How are you? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, Robert.
Hey. Oh, it's Lenise.
Yeah.
What's happening, Lenise?
Well, I'm taking a chill pill today. I'm actually back calm and at home and know where to go and no time to be there.
Well, at least you aren't calling me from a gas station. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm usually rolling about this time.
You are. You're out there. You're running around your car. You're hitting me on your cell phone, which is it's not bad. It is what it is. But
yeah,
well,
I get you. I'm usually on the way to work at that time, so I'm usually en route when you're on.
So here we are, day before the equinox. What are you going to be doing tomorrow?
Hopefully, being in the same state of mind I am now.
Are you digging where you are right now?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm okay right now. I had a little episode this morning, though, that was really strange. I woke up with my heart beating fast, and I don't know if that's menopausal symptoms or what. But I didn't flip out. I jumped up. I got in my car. It was about 5 in the morning. And then
really?
all of a sudden, the air hit me outside, and I knew everything was going to be okay. I guess it was a little anxiety. I don't know.
Well, there are a lot of people that are experiencing what's called tachycardia, and it's a fluttering heartbeat, racing heartbeat. A lot of people are experiencing this right now. And you're going to start to see, watch this, you know, what we're seeing now with the over-the-counter, not over-the-counter, the prescription medications that they advertise on TV. What we're seeing with these prescription medications now are these drugs that are being created for, you know, what some people might call ascension-like symptoms, right? Or HARP-like symptoms, or whatever these things are that are impacting us. I believe some of it is being caused by the electromagnetic grid that is encircling the planet with ELF towers and Gwen towers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's got a pop-up here. It sucks. So I think that's happening. Then you've got the heart stuff that's happening. And then there's also what's happening with the sun. And the sun is going through some gymnastics right now in a huge way. So, you know, there's this really intense kind of electromagnetic field between what's being generated here and what's being generated cosmically that is impacting all of us. So what's happening? You know, we're having these, you know, these panic attacks, these anxiety attacks, the tachycardia. People are having, you know, extreme hot flashes, you know, and perspiring like crazy for no reason at all, right? A lot of these things are taking place now. And tinnitus. There's another thing. People are talking about, I have the buzzing in my ear. I have the ringing in my ear. Well, guess what? Now they've got, you know, a prescription drug just for that. You know, so they're starting to prescribe these meds to deal with the symptoms of major planetary transformation, some of which is positive and some of which is negative. They're all commingling right now. So I think your tachycardia and that heart thing is related to it. Here's what I suggest for most people. Get in touch with orgone. Get in touch with orgone. You want orgone in your home. You want orgone on your body. This is important stuff. What it does is it neutralizes the negative fields, the negative electrical fields, and the scalar fields. Scalar energy, the really interesting thing about scalar energy is that they tap into these energy voids. Scalar energy doesn't really exist and gets pumped through your lights or your appliances, they're tapping into scalar energy from a different place. And we're being bombarded by scalar energy as well. And one of the things that orgone does is it brings balance into the biomagnetic field of the body. So you want orgone around your home, and you want a nice piece of orgone that you can wear. And that will help you deal with some of the intensity of the electromagnetic smog and hopefully balance out the intensity of the sun, which is bombarding us with an intense amount of neutrinos through these solar flares that we've been dealing with in this intense and rapid solar flare cycle. I was talking with my good friend Katie Galante, and she was telling me about a researcher that she knows quite well down in Southern California. And this guy's really bright. He's dialed in to technology at a very high level. In fact, has worked with some of the big boys on some of the technology. And what she shared with me is that they've moved beyond HAARP and using HAARP on the planets. What they're doing now is they're going after the sun, and they're trying to hack the frequency of the sun. They're trying to influence a star with some of this technology now. And one of the reasons they're doing that is because we are on a path towards planetary evolution where we all get taken up a notch. And there's a very intelligent symbiosis going on between the collective soul of humanity and the force that generates light and life into our lives, which is the sun. It is light and life on a biological and agricultural level, but also on a spiritual level as well. And the sun is doing its part right now to activate us and to take us up, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 levels. Okay? That's what the sun is doing. And really what it's doing is orchestrating a collective mass awakening. And what they want to do is they want to interfere with that, right? They want to be God, and they want to control the sun. They want to divert that energy, or they want to subvert it, or maybe what they even want to do is funnel it and channel it and bring it into their own lives solely for them and not for us, right? So this is what's happening right now. And we're in the midst of it. We're swimming in all of it. And orgone is one of those substances that can help bring balance into your life. I've got orgone all over my house, and I don't know what my house would be like. What's that?
What is it?
Well, orgone was it's an energy that was discovered by Wilhelm Reich, and Wilhelm Reich was one of the Austria schools of. He was one of the members of the Austria School of Psychotherapy, which is probably one of the most important group of men in the 20th century. Out of that group, you have Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Wilhelm Reich, and Alfred Adler, for the greatest psychological minds, all of them, quite different from one another in the 20th century. And Wilhelm Reich broke with the Freudian school. See, one of the things that Reich questioned Freud about was Freud's notion of sexuality. And Freud's notion of sexuality comes from his background. Freud was Jewish, and there's a great deal of cultural and social baggage and religious baggage around sexuality and his religion that I don't think Freud was ever really able to sort out. And so what Freud really determined was that sex was probably one of the most important psychological factors that drove humans, and there was sort of the back door of sex, which was the id, which contained all of our complexes and obsessions, and I really think that was kind of a repository of his cultural and religious guilt. That's my take on Freud. How it's interesting because what Freud determined as the id, Carl Jung determined as the collective unconscious. And Jung at that point said, well, these things aren't necessarily demons, the unclaimed aspects of our psyche that if we let them out of the closet will turn us into raging psychopaths and send us 3,000 years back in time, and we revert to being cavemen and clubbing each other and, you know, having sex with animals. And that's not what Jung thought. Jung thought that these were instructive forces, that they were generational and archetypal and universal, and that they were both good and bad, and that we could learn something from both of them. But then Jung was a Swiss Catholic who was raised on theosophy and the Swedenborgianism. That's where Jung was raised from. So he had a more holistic notion of the collective unconscious and id. Now, Reich goes in a very different direction, and Reich says, well, the id is pure sex. It's pure energy. It is pure libido. We need to tap into this because that's life force. And if we constrain it, then what's going to happen is that we're going to have these complexes. We're going to have these psychological defaults in our biological mechanism. And then, of course, we're going to go into therapy because, you know, then we got to figure this stuff out. No, let's tap into it. Let's use it. Yet he realized that orgone, which is his name for it, is in everything. It is a cosmic energy. It's in all the plants. It's in all the trees. And what he did is he created these plastics, right? So he said, okay, well, what isn't organic? Well, this plastic stuff is not organic. So maybe what we could do is we could trap orgone with inorganic material. But in order to do that, we have to have some grounding with the organic world. We've got to be able to draw this orgone energy into these inorganic materials. So he began to experiment with things like copper filings, iron, and combine them with plastic and polyurethane to create these organic sculptures. So they look like hard plastic, but they have things like crystals, and it's become very specific. People have taken orgone to a level of high art. And so the theory is that by creating orgone, that you're able to draw with the inorganic, right, the inorganic matter with the organic matter suspended in it, that you're able to draw orgone, more orgone into your space. And so by drawing more orgone into your space, you create a richer organic field, which now protects you and shields you from the inorganic material like scalar rays, ELS, all that crap. And so Wilhelm Reich went very far with this, and he created a series. He created Reichian body work. He created a whole model based on orgone. He had a community, and in fact, Freeman and I talked about this on the show last week. He had a community he was developing in upstate New York that was dedicated to the pursuit of orgone. And a lot of people think that he was like insane, that, you know, he was a serial masturbator and all this crap. You know, Wilhelm Reich was a great mind, and orgone, I think, is a really important development in the evolution of consciousness. And the United States government was interested in using orgone as a weapon. And when they figured out that orgone could not be used for evil because it really only operates on a frequency of love, that they decided to, you know, ditch the orgone technology and go with Tesla technology, which is getting closer to the scalar technology for technological manipulation. So for you, getting back to everything, you know, back to square one, to bring orgone into your apartment and to wear orgone will help you deal with the tachycardia and some of these other, you know, really bizarre symptoms that we're all going through, the dizziness, the head, you know, the brain fog. Some of this also is high metal content because of what's coming in through the chemtrails. And because of that, we're much more open to being, you know, tapped electronically by the scalar frequencies and by the ELF stuff. We're literally walking antennas with all these heavy metals inside of us. So getting some of those heavy metals out is important too, but you can ameliorate some of the effects of it through orgone. And you can find it online, Lenise. People sell it on eBay. You can even make it yourself. There are YouTube videos of how you can make orgone. So all you really need are like ice cube trays, polyurethane, you know, copper filings, BBs, some crushed up crystal, and there you go. You've got your own orgone.
Okay. Then how do you spell it?
O-R-G-O-N-E, orgone.
Oregon. Okay, just like it. So
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
But, I'm about to get used to it now. The earlier part of the year, I thought I was going crazy. I had the beep in the ears stopped up, the heart palpitations.
Yep.
Couldn't eat, just all at once. It came down on me. And it's eased up, but last night was a revisit, and I handled it pretty well. I said, okay, you're not leaving the planet at this moment. Everything's okay, but I still got out of the house because I said I don't want anything to happen and I'm alone.
Well,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things is that, and this is about being in the moment. Like, I had an experience back in 1998, which was a life-changing experience for me, and not in a good way. And I was at home, and it was late at night, and I've talked about this experience before. I was on my computer, and I felt like somebody had hit me square in the center of my third eye with a tuning fork. And then I felt these waves go from one side of my brain to the other, just split right down the middle, and I felt very strange after that. And it wasn't like an enlightenment moment. And I went to bed, and I woke up the next day, and I felt unusual. And then at the end of that day, I wound up having a massive case of vertigo, and had to be taken to the hospital. I was vomiting all over the place. And for a good 6 months after that, really for about a month after that, I could barely stand up straight. And it was really challenging, super challenging, because at that time my son was young. He was quite young. He was, I believe, about 3 years old. And dealing with him, during that time was, really frustrating, because he was an active kid. He ran around a lot. And for me to be able to have him be happy and stuff, I had to run while I, was falling, wanted to fall over all the time. Super challenging. I had to take him to preschool. I had to drive a car, and driving a car, with vertigo is a really weird thing. And that went on for quite a while. And I eventually came out of it for the most part. But every now and then I have these moments where all of a sudden, the world gets really, starts to spin a lot. And this last week, I had one of those moments where all of a sudden I felt like I was going to go right back into that vertigo vortex. And the thing that I did is I just stood there and I breathed it in. And I just let it pass through me. I recognized it.
Yeah.
Because I think the last time it happened, I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I braced, and it was like, and now I just let it go right through me. And I felt weird afterwards. I mean, I kind of walked around Trader Joe's in a bit of a daze, but I got through it. And I wasn't, in a fetal position, vomiting, on the streets of Berkeley. So I think, to your point, to be aware of it in those moments.
Yeah.
To witness it happening. It's like, here it goes again. And become a witness to it. All of a sudden, you begin to have more power over that moment.
That's what happened last night. I still felt a little funny afterwards, but I didn't do what I did earlier when it first started. I mean, I would go with it, and I could see myself doing that, and I caught myself. I said, wait a minute, because my heart started beating faster when I started having the thoughts of, oh, my God, I'm having a heart attack.
Right. Yeah.
But it just turned around. I stepped out, and it was magical. It was about 5 a.m. in the morning, and it was just so beautiful. And something about being out in the air and everything just immediately, it changed. The energy changed, and I said, okay. My heart rate slowed down because I put my hand on my chest to check it, and at first it was just boom, 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 boom. And after I, embraced it, that's the word, it went away. And I just let it go, move through me, as opposed to taking it and running in another direction with it.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on.
There is that going on. And the more conscious and aware that you are of how much is going on, well, guess what? You get to see more of it. You get to experience more of it.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I experienced someone last night crying. My sister had a birthday party, and this girl was just crying. She said, I have never been through anything like this before in my life. She said, but I've just never. And I knew what she was talking about. And then she's cancer, and I hear that cancer is one of those signs that's really going through it now.
Cancers are having a tough time on this planet right now, you know, because they anchor, you know, the Cancerian people anchor nurturing and love and feeding and taking care of one another and birth. They're the most fundamental things. The most fundamental things that are associated with this planet are Cancerian. And if you look at it, you know, we've got the squares, you know, between Uranus and Pluto. We had Saturn, you know, getting into it with Cancer for the last 2.5 years, squaring off against everybody that's a Cancer sun. You know, Cancers are taking it on the chin, you know, since really 2008. This has been a hard road for Cancer. Well, good news is this. In 2013, things shift for Cancers, okay? Saturn goes into Scorpio. All the stuff, all the hard work, everything that the Cancer rising people have been going through for the past 4 years, 5 years, that's going to begin to smooth out, level off, and they're going to be able to, you know, take those changes that they've been through and do constructive things with them. And then in the latter part of 2013, they get a reward. Jupiter goes into Cancer. Hallelujah. You know, you're going to, I tell you right now, you're going to want to know a Cancer in 2013. Trust me on this. You're going to want to be around a Cancer. Why is that? Because Cancers know how to cook. They know how to sew. They know how to, you know, take a bag of beans and make a week's meal out of it. You know, when things get tough and things get hard, a Cancer will always give you a hug. You know, so people are going to want to be around Cancers in 2013 because things are going to get challenging, and Cancers are going to be, they're going to be in their element. They're going to be, okay, we got played hard for the last 4 years, and we've been practicing. We've been working hard on our Cancerian skills, and guess what? We graduated. We're ready to roll. Now the rest of you guys just step back and let us take care of some business right now, and we'll give you a nice hot meal and a hug while we're at it. So be kind to a Cancer, because you're going to need them. People are going to need you. I'm serious about this.
Wow, more to come. Well, like I said, we've been prepared for battle, and I've been through so much. And so I do see it getting better, but I thought that Saturn. Oh, I'm excellent here. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yeah, I can. You're cutting out just a little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that Saturn was going into Scorpio in October.
Yes, it goes into Scorpio in October, but it's going to be there for 2.5 years.
Okay, so it gets better in 2013.
Well, everything, yeah. I mean, most Cancers, I mean, everybody born basically from the last part of June, right? So the 23rd of June to probably about the 10th of July. Maybe, no, before that. I would say maybe about the 3rd or 4th of July. I don't have the ephemeris in front of me. They're going to get the effect of the Saturn trine very early.
Mm-hmm.
But that Saturn trine, the Saturn goes up, you know, it advances, it goes back. I think it gets to 14 degrees, and then it retrogrades and it goes back to, I think, 7 or 8 or 9. So, you know, the first 15 degrees of Scorpio get played out for the most part in 2013.
Okay.
So the first 15 degrees of Cancer that will have the most impactful relationship with that Saturn trine.
Oh, I'm glad. Because I'm seeing some changes now. They're very subtle, but I'm beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, hopefully that would be true because of what all, you know, Cancers, like I said, and even Libras to some extent, going with the Libra conjunction with the Sun and Libra planets. It's been kind of a challenging time for Libras. Hey, listen, Lenise, the lines are stacking up, and I love you.
Okay. But I love you too. Did you see? I see you saw my picture on Facebook. Finally got to see my face.
Yeah, that's me. That's you. So there we are. Yeah. We're halfway there. All right.
Okay.
Take good care, okay?
Oh, nice talking with you. Bye-bye. I'll hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go to our friend Dave in Austin. Hey, Dave.
Greetings, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Well, I can't remember what your question was a while ago and why we were calling, but I think it had something to do about with our grievance here or our major.
It's just about balance. What would you like to see more in balance? You know, either in your life or in the world around you. I mean, that's really what it's about. You know, it's about things that are out of balance, and bringing things into a form of accord or equanimity. And that's really, you know, I wanted people to have an opportunity to address that. You know, and maybe everything is fine, and maybe there isn't anything out of balance, and that's kind of an attitude or a perspective to have as well. But, you know, there's also the personal, and so I just wanted to, you know, we're here right now in a time where we're theoretically experiencing perfect balance between day and night, light and dark, and it was a time to be able to bring it up and out into the open.
Well, I'm going to avoid talking about what I was going to say and go right to this. I was listening to Santos Bonucci,
Yeah.
I think's his name.
Bonacci. Yeah.
A couple of months ago, and he started, which was the second time it came to me, things kind of show up in my life, and then I know I got to pay attention. He was speaking about this product called cell salts, C-E-L-L, or C-E-L-L-S-A-L-T-S, cell salts.
Uh-huh.
And he was relating, and you might be very interested in this also, he was relating to the cell salts. I don't get the astrology type stuff that you totally understand. It's just not in my psyche. I have to call somebody. But he was talking about how these cell salts have a huge effect on us, and he was going into the astrological support of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after coming to me 2 or 3 times, I went down to the store and bought some of these cell salts. They're about $10. There's 12 numbers, and one called bioplasma or bioplasty or something like that.
Yeah.
And Highlands makes them, the company named Highlands. And there's about 12 or 13 of these bottles. They're about $10 a piece. And it's a homeopathic type, you know, the little pellet, white pellets, sugar cubes type things.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I've been dealing with this low-grade depression my whole life, like a cloud. And, you know, about, 20 years ago, I remember having an experience one day. It was as if a switch would go off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, 5 seconds ago I was depressed. Now I'm fine. What the hell is going on? And, you know, I've really never found anything that really ever did anything. And I used to buy the gallons, the polyurethane for the Oregon generators. I used to make those things beautiful. I'd buy emeralds to put in them, all this stuff.
Right.
I tried everything, and nothing would work. But I tell you what, I went and bought some of these cell salts. After I read them on them a little bit, I got a number 7 cell salt. And I took the first 4 of those, and about 5 seconds later, the cloud was lifted.
Interesting.
Uncanny. And I've been taking them quite often, quite a bit. Sometimes it seems to be a bit more of a challenge for them to work. I have a few numbers because I've been having a couple of health challenges. But it was number 6, excuse me. The number 6 just took this cloud away instantly. And now I'll take 4 of them. If it doesn't go away, I'll take 4 more. If it doesn't go away, I'll take 4 more. And it seems to dissipate on a very subtle level. So that might be something you want to look into, because the way he was going on about this, he was claiming that our body chemically is only made up of these 4 cell salts, and he was going into the astrological aspect of what these cell salts do. I wish I could have understood what he was saying, but I'm sure you would have. So these cell salts might be something that obviously, you know, what they're doing to us and what the food's doing, you know, what the world's doing to us is kind of removing out of our system. And here's a way to get it back in here.
Well, one of the things, I've taken them, by the way, and they're actually quite calming. I've used them for a while, and I stopped taking them, and I don't know why, but maybe because I got better, I don't know. But I experienced them as being calming. But what's happening is that with all the metals that are in the chemtrails, our body is being leached of really essential minerals. So what's happening is that it's kind of like when you take synthetic testosterone or a steroid, your body begins. You're introducing something outside of your body, so your body begins to shut down, producing its own natural testosterone, because you're essentially overriding it and overamping it. You're bringing more in, and the same thing is happening with these metals. So we're having this infusion of things like barium, aluminum dioxide, cesium. All these metals are coming into our body, and they're dominating the other minerals that are really important, even minerals as basic as salt. And then what's happening is they're getting leached out of our body. So to your point, yes, these things are very, very important. There's a company out of Salt Lake City. They have a product called, I think it's called Vitamins or Liquimins. And I used to take this on a fairly regular basis. And it's comprised of all these different minerals from the Salt Lake. And you would drop this stuff in water. And I tell you, I felt so much better when I would drink this on a consistent basis. Now, if you actually use apple cider vinegar along with the Liquimins, and I'll bet you it would even help out with the cell salts. The apple cider vinegar helps you retain the minerals and absorb more of them. So I think you're onto it, and there you go, Dave, bringing a little bit of cell salt technology into the discussion today.
And one other little, I'm not into selling products or anything like that, but I got sick about 3 months ago. I lived in this house. A lady didn't take care of her air conditioner. I had already, about 11 years ago, been in a house with mold and got very sick. Well, I got sick, and I bought 2 products. One was this stem cell enhancer called laminine that they apparently they do something with chicken embryos that they did in the 40s, and the man was claiming to cure cancer with it in the 40s, and he died. And I don't know how it happened, but they have it out again. So I got some of that, and it's pretty strong. I'm not sure what it does exactly, but I got this little product called Optimum Detox, and it's yucca plant, supposedly distilled in a very special way, where they distill the whole plant. And I got to tell you, the reason I say this is because for me it's the most incredible thing that's ever happened in my life. I've been dealing with health products for 35 years, and all my friends are naturopaths and blah, blah, blah. So I lived in Hawaii and lived in different places where parasites were a problem, and realized that, wow, if you got a bug, it might cost you $10,000 and take 3 years to get rid of it,
Yeah.
Well, I started taking that product, the Optimum Detox, just like 2 or 3 drops a day, and taking this laminine. 2 weeks ago, this is gross, but I'm going to tell you all because it's important. I went to the bathroom, and there was a handful of these round, white, opaque circles, like ringworms. They were 5 inches across.
Wow.
Didn't think much of it, it was early in the morning, and I just kind of glanced at it. Well, a week later, I sat down, kaboom. I'm assuming it was a tapeworm. It was 1.5 feet long.
Holy Moses. I almost said holy shit.
I have a picture of it. I mean, literally, it's over 1.5 feet long. And I couldn't believe that through the minimum detox that I have gone through, that I actually killed something inside me like that.
How do you feel now as a result of that?
Well, see, that's been kind of depressing, actually, because the day after, I kind of felt a little better, but then I must have more because I went right into the detox feeling again. I can feel over on my right side under the ribs. It feels as if that's where these buggers go to when they're getting challenged by those products, you know.
Yeah.
And I can feel the pressure over there. And actually, before I dropped off that tapeworm, it felt like, I'm assuming what it feels like when these women are giving birth, these little pangs, sharp pangs.
Yeah.
I felt that like for about a day, here and there and here and there.
Wow.
So I'm pretty in tune in this. I think they're hiding out over here. I'm not sure if it's a liver over there. It's almost on the side, right under the ribs.
Yeah.
And I can feel it kind of hard, and it's these guys are hiding over there, and so I'm tracking them down. But this product, the Optimum Detox, I think.
Optimum Detox and Laminine. And by the way, if you're in the chat room, Gates 7 is she deals with Laminine. So if you're interested and you want to find out more about it, she is a distributor. So you can go into the chat room right now and you can talk to her about Laminine. So I just want to put that out there because she's a source for it. So
that's Optimum Detox is a little 2-ounce bottle. It only costs like $22 or $23. It's usually on sale on the internet.
Okay.
And I think it must be magic, and you know, it must be really volatile to these critters.
Yeah.
If you have any kind of a belly, the reason I got it was I was watching all these testimonials of these people talk, and they kept saying they were losing 5, 6, 7, 8 inches around their belly and nothing else changing. Well, they never really talked about the parasites, but I think that's what they were eliminating the parasites.
Yeah. Well, good stuff, man, and thank you for calling in. I mean, that's all about bringing balance, physical balance into the life. So, good. All right, do you want to stay on hold? Do you want to drop off?
I'll drop off. I'm listening online.
All right, thanks, Dave. See you.
Yep.
Optimum Detox and Laminine. Go into the chat room, hit up Gate 7. She will give you the skinny on Laminine. Hi there, you're on the air and in the moment of balance with Roberts. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, thank you for asking.
Good.
Yeah, I was just calling in to see if you could give me a tiny little insight as to what's coming up for me planetarily.
Planetarily, okay. I'm just going to do a quick, since this is all about balance today. It's about balance, equinox energies, and I have to balance the time here because I got a bunch of calls. It's heavy in the queue today. Let me just do a quick look at your solar chart. When's your birthday?
It's 12/28/1985.
12/28/1985. Okay. So with the theme of balance in mind, because this is what we're looking at, this is the lens of the day, 12/28/85. You are, let's see, you're a Capricorn Sun, 6 degrees. Looks like you have Moon in Cancer, late Moon in Cancer, is that right?
Right.
You do, yep. And Mercury, Sag, Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter, Aquarius, Saturn in Sag, Neptune in Sag, going down the line here, Pluto in Scorpio. Okay, so I don't know how much you know about astrology or your chart, but the big ticket item for you is Saturn, because Saturn is going to be playing out generationally with your generation, which really started to hit the planet around 1982, 83, with Pluto in Scorpio, I think around 83. And so you've got Pluto at 6 degrees Scorpio. So Saturn is going to hit your natal Pluto very early on, October, November of this year, and it's going to dance around your Pluto for most of 2013. And what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for your generation? Well, your generation, this is what I think is really interesting about your generation. I've been fascinated by this whole nerd look. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking to myself, well, why the nerd look? They talk about Urkel, right? Urkel is like the archetype for the nerd. But why? What's really behind that? And what came to me was that Superman was kind of the original nerd as Clark Kent. You know, Clark Kent was this bespectacled, kind of clumsy reporter that was always losing his scoops to Lois Lane. You know, in a weird way, it's kind of the bifurcation of the male psyche, which is a little unhealthy in some ways. But really what the nerd look for Clark Kent was doing was it was masking his superpowers, right? Beneath the nerd Clark Kent was Superman. And I think that's kind of what your generation is about with this nerd look thing. Because on some level, what they're trying to do now, or what your generation is trying to do, is go incognito with this power, you know, with this Pluto and Scorpio power. And Saturn on your Scorpio, or on your Pluto rather, is really going to test your generation about what it is to have power on an individual level and on a collective level. And I've talked about your generation quite a bit on my show because I'm fascinated by it. It is the first generational and transpersonal generation that we've seen in astrology for quite some time. And, you know, it all starts, everything kind of starts in the 20th century with the Pluto in Gemini, Pluto in Cancer generation, the silent generation. Then we have the Pluto in Leo generation, which are the baby boomers. Then we have the Pluto in Virgo generation, which is primarily Generation X. And then some Pluto in Leo gets thrown in, Pluto in Libra gets thrown into that as well. And then we have Pluto in Scorpio. And Pluto in Scorpio, and it goes from really hearth and home with Pluto in Cancer to Pluto in Libra, which is, I think the film that really typifies the Pluto and Libra generation is like that movie Singles, right? Where all those young Pluto and Libra kids are hanging out in Seattle. That's Pluto and Libra. And it's all about relationships. The Pluto Scorpio is about something very different. It drops off the continental shelf of the personal, and it goes into collectivity. And so your generation is the first truly collective generation. You feel things simultaneously. You do things simultaneously. It's a very interesting generation. And now what you're all going to be dealing with on a personal and a collective level is power. How to harness it, how to deal with it, how to handle it, where your limitations are, where people want to press in on your limitations, where in some cases it's probably not wise to show your power. You know, in other cases, you're going to have to say, okay, this is it. This is the law of the land. This is where the buck stops, because your generation, Pluto in Scorpio, is fixed. You know, you don't budge on much. You know, so Saturn is going to help you figure that out. But initially, it's going to feel like limitation. And I've said this before on the show. One of the things that I see with Pluto and Scorpio is the rise of a new sexually transmitted disease, and mostly with young people. And so kind of the indiscriminate sexuality that's been sort of taking place with the Pluto and Scorpio generation, that's going to cease. And Saturn is going to put a capper on that. And then for you, you've got Mars in Scorpio, and your Mars is actually conjunct your Pluto, which is very, very intense. So this whole notion of power, sexual power, individual power, there's, you know, it begins to sort of morph and go into places like the occult, psychism, paganism, some very, you know, so Saturn is going to be on both of those planets for you personally and collectively and transpersonally. So you're going to have to figure out how to deal with power. That's going to be your number one theme. And one of the things that you may want to do during that time is when Saturn's on Mars and Saturn's on Pluto is you may have like zero sexual relationships with people. Like you may become completely celibate during that time. Or you may experiment. You may get into, you know, sex magic. You know, you may try to figure out, well, how does this work? How can I channel this, you know? Because a lot of times Saturn will be, Saturn relates to ancient traditions and even the occult itself. So, you know, I think that's going to be a real big piece for you over the course of the next year and year and a half. Power. What do I do with it? How do I deal with it? In addition to that, you know, Pluto is just coming off of your sun. So you've been going through your own very intense personal transformation around who you are and your identity And so this has been, I've used power about 20 times in the last 5 minutes, but this has been a very powerful time for you, and will continue to be a powerful time. The last thing I'm going to share with you, then I have to say goodbye because there's other people waiting. But Jupiter, you've got Jupiter on your Chiron, and that's going to be happening for you over the course of the next few months. And Jupiter on Chiron in Gemini, you're going to be exploring like very unusual aspects of your personality, like bisexuality, or you may explore that, or you may explore things that are not necessarily culturally acceptable. And the thing with Gemini doesn't really have a lot of judgment. Gemini just experiences. And Chiron in Gemini is all about, exploring not necessarily the taboo, but the other. It's like, well, if this is supposed to be good, well, what's the other like? Or if this is supposed to be bad for you, what's the other like? And so Chiron in Gemini is theoretically supposed to get you used to being okay with the other and understanding what the other is, whatever that is, whether it's an attitude or a person or a culture or a belief or a sexual preference. And Jupiter will make it easier for you to do that without a lot of judgment. So that's what's up for you for the next 6 months to a year.
All righty. Thank you so much. That was really insightful.
Okay. See ya.
Take care.
All right. So let's go to here we go. Celanese. Let's go right here.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hey, I was looking at your thing about balance.
Yes.
I think I called you about a week ago, and the thing that I want it all. I want balance in everything.
Good.
In my life, in my work, in my family, in my happiness, in my growth. Today is my mother's 3rd year death anniversary, and I didn't know that this was equinox. I'm just trying to learn all this.
Uh-huh.
So if I sit and push back everything negative and try to do everything positive and have no ill wishes toward anybody, I can achieve this?
It's worth a try. I mean, why not? It's a strategy, right? I mean, if you move towards more positive experiences in your life, you're going to have more life-affirming interactions with people, and I would definitely advocate that for sure. One of the things that, however, and this is where, and I don't want to discourage you from doing that, by the way, but one of the things that happens is that people get addicted to positivity, and then when that happens, the universe will bring them something very, very negative to deal with.
Oh,
and
really?
It's like, here, how's this?
But that's part of growth.
How can you be positive with this? You're getting really good at being positive. Try this on for size, right?
But that's where you've got to, okay, something negative comes in. You got to say, okay, that's part of life, yin and yang.
Right.
And sometimes you grow through a lesson that's negative, correct?
You can, absolutely. One of the things here's my only caveat with positive. I know maybe it's only because I live so close to Marin County, but it's people in Marin County. I love them, but for the most part they live in a bubble, and what they do is they create this wonderful little Edenic world around them, and they don't really care much about the rest of. And I'm overgeneralizing a little bit, but they don't really care much about children being born with malformed limbs. And 3 eyes in Iraq due to depleted uranium. And they don't want to deal with that because that's negative, right?
No, I do. I do care about things. I do.
Well, that's and I'm just giving you my caveat about the positive bubble. That's ultimately what happens is that people they never want to have anything like bad or negative or unpleasant happen to them. So then they wire their worlds that way. They only hang around people that flatter them or have a very sugary worldview, and that's fine. But I just think that it's ultimately that's limited. But I agree with you. I think if you have a positive attitude and you want to have positive experiences,
but you can cut cords with people that are like that. You can cut cords.
Yes, you can.
There's not nothing wrong with being positive, but if somebody's hurting you or something you don't like, you just cut the cord. I'm not wishing them harm. I'm just like, okay, I'm detaching from them because they don't think like I do.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I'll give you. I told this story before. I had an example of this a couple of weeks ago. I was with my mother, and she was being really negative. I walked into her house, and she's moping around the house, and she's barking at me, and she's getting really she's being pissy about her friend who manipulated her, and she's just going on and on about this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and listen. I'm going to listen. But then it began to snowball. And then I had enough. And I just said, you know what? I said, take me home. Take me back to my car. I want to get out of this car. I'm tired of dealing with your negative crap around this. Okay?
Right, yes.
My feelings, my kids' feelings, they're much more important than your unresolved bullshit with a friend who dumped her, who manipulated you, and you did not have the gumption in real time to stop her and say, Marcia, I don't appreciate this. I feel manipulated. And what do? You swallow it, and then you start dumping on me. Enough. You've been doing this all your life, and I'm tired of it. I am tired of it. And you know what happened?
The cord. And she's like, okay, she saw it. She was suing.
She stopped. She hasn't done it since then.
I had a woman, she stole my daughter's apartment, and she doesn't want to know that anyways, and she's been coming to my house, and anyways, she found out my daughter's going to get an apartment, and now she's trying to hide that she's getting it. I got just a little bit angry, and I said, no, I'm not going to let what she did do anything to me or my daughter. We're letting it go. That's for her to deal with, not for us. In other words, let it go.
Letting it go is a strategy.
Yes. It's not worth it. She has to deal with that. We're not going to deal with it. We're going to let it go. But also, I want to, my great-grandmother, she was a healer. She delivered babies, and she was a healer, could cure things. I also want to I do numerology. I don't know anything about astrology, but I also want to become a healer and intuitive like you, which I do have some, but I've not nowhere developed like yours. I want it all. In other words, I want this to be, I'm in a cycle 5 in my life. That means change and, a year. And I want to grow and also not to just better myself, but also be a service to others in something that I feel passionate about, which I feel passionate about what you're doing as well.
Right. Well,
so
there you go.
You think it's obtainable?
Yes. Why not? Why?
Because
what kind of person would I be? What kind of person would I be if I said, no, I don't think you can do that?
Yeah, because it's the equinox. It's what you said, and like I said, today's my mother's 3rd year death anniversary. I'm like, wow, what a day to find out this, because I didn't know anything about balancing an equinox. And how long is this going to last, the equinox?
Well, tomorrow is really the peak, and it's at 10:49 East Coast time. You're calling from Kentucky, aren't you?
No, I'm from Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, Alabama. So 10:49 tomorrow is when it will be the most balanced time of the year for you. So just be conscious. Be aware of where you are at 10:49. Have a thought. Have a thought tomorrow at 10:49 in the morning that you want to carry with you for the next 365 days.
I'm going to be thinking of it today even.
Okay.
I want the whole enchilada. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Don't be a stranger.
I'm not. Bye-bye.
All right. Come on back now. You hear? I love it. Moving to Texas. I got to get my my Texan accent in order. Hey, you're on the air with Robert. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, hi.
How's it going?
Hey, great. You do good work, Robert.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. What's your name?
My name's Risa.
Hey, Risa. What's happening?
Well, just checking into things. This Pluto square Uranus has really been activating people over, and I just wanted I thought you might look at my chart, if you don't mind.
Sure. We'll do a quick little, I've only got about 10 minutes left in the show, and I've got one more call I want to squeeze in. Let me just do a quick look at your solar. What's your birthday?
April 24th, 1952.
Okay. Do you have your own Blog Talk radio show?
Oh, yeah. I do astrology as well.
Yeah, I get your updates.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, there you go, April 24th.
I have a Pisces rising at 7 degrees.
Okay, April 24th, 82. So you've got this square like really hitting your Mercury, huh?
Oh yeah.
You've got Uranus on your Mercury. What's that like? How are you experiencing that?
Well, I'm in the process of dealing with primary issues, which the Grand Cross is really strong in my chart.
Yeah.
Which is all cardinal.
Yeah.
But I'm a double Taurus with Jupiter in the second house, so my challenges have been mostly financial and things of that sort, over life.
Right. So you've got Saturn squaring your Jupiter right now too, huh?
Opposing it. It went through.
Opposing. Yes, opposing. Right. Yeah. Wow. You're going through it, man.
Well, there's always energy to go through.
And Pluto on Chiron too. Coming up for you in a big way. Yeah. Are you having headaches with Uranus on your Mercury?
No, I've never really had any headaches or anything like that. So the primary, I've made significant, major changes over the last 3 or 4 years. Divorced, remarried, changed jobs, moved, all those kind of things that people see.
Yeah.
But the challenge I have is understanding how my Jupiter in Taurus really works. It's in Aries, but it's right there next to the Sun and Moon.
Yeah. Well, classically, you're at the anaretic degree of Jupiter, right? You're at what, 29 degrees Jupiter?
Yeah, 29 degrees.
Yeah, so that's a tricky place for Jupiter. And, from what so you would have Jupiter in your second house, accidental exaltation, and then you would have Jupiter pretty much almost in Taurus. I think the life lesson for that is, I think it's really kind of basic, just like Taurus itself. It's abundance, it's accepting, it's allowing yourself to, have enough material wealth and resources in order to do what you need to do. And the thing with Jupiter and Aries, right at that edge is there's still this, especially with, the kind of the overlay, with both Mercury and Venus in your chart, there's this overlay of having to do it on your own, and going it alone. And I don't think that that's really what Jupiter and Taurus is about. When we look at the age of Taurus, it's kind of the birth of civilization. And I think that, being able to, for lack of a better term, invoke or allow the greater whole or the world or the civilized world to support you is really important. I think that getting into, here's the notion that you have to spend time with the 29th degree in order to get it right. There's some truth and validity to that, but I think just by the dint of it being in the second house, you're being encouraged to accept and embrace that you can have wealth, that you can have health, that you can have all of these, really fundamental pieces that support you. And I don't know what it will take for you to get over the top with that. Maybe it's when Saturn finally moves out of Libra, and into Scorpio, where you can begin to embrace that and accept that. But I think that that's it. I think it's about something really very, very simple, and it's allowing that Jupiter to to take shape in your life and to not necessarily question it. So how do you do that? It's like I talked to a really good friend who determined that she didn't want to have to struggle with her clients anymore and her pay. And she said, I'm just going to, this is my fee. I'm going to charge this for my fee. and I'm going to attract wealthy clients. And guess what? She did. She started to attract wealthy clients. And she really, had this realization where she does all this other stuff for people for free. She writes her blog, and she does a lot of free stuff on the side for people with energy work. So she didn't really get hung up over the guilt of accepting larger sums of money from from a lesser amount of people. And that's how she did the math. And once she made the decision, it happened. It coalesced. And I think that there's something in here for you with this. And that if you can simply say, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to be supported in my work, and I'm ready to just allow this Jupiter to take root. And then with your great, ability to make changes, with that cardinal energy and start new projects and have a revolutionary thought with Uranus on your Aries, you can do that. You can say, this is it. Done. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move right in now. This is my new idea. This is my new belief. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to allow for lack of a better term, the universe support me. And this is how it's going to get done. And I think that if you go down that path and then you give thanks for having Jupiter in your second house, then I think you can see the blessings and the abundance manifest in your life. And that's my sense. I know it sounds simplistic, but I think you just got to get there. And you just get there with that brilliant Mercury Aries brain and Uranus right there right now, and accepting the fact that Jupiter in the second house is material abundance and reward. I've seen it. My father had Jupiter in the second house. The guy did, he took a GED. He never made more than $20,000, $30,000 in his life, and he drove Mercedes and Cadillacs, and he had boats. He didn't know he had Jupiter in the second house. He just accepted the fact that he could have this stuff. So I think that that's really kind of where it's at for you. Just accept it and bless it and bring it in, and you don't have to go alone. In fact, tell people about your show right now, and maybe where they can hear more about what you do and what time that they can experience you.
Well, I appreciate the information. The my midheaven is Sagittarius, so the Jupiter would function to open that career area, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, one last quick question.
Sure.
I have Mars retrograde in Scorpio, and then my ruler Venus is in Pisces, but then in Aries.
Yes.
And then I have a Pisces rising. Do you work with rulership trees very much?
Not really. No. But what's your question?
Oh, it's just the relative power of the different signs, planets in the signs. As far as Venus being in Aries and being deposited by Mars and Scorpio, and so I was just looking at wondering. So many times people have kind of a hidden ruler, so it takes them a long time to sort out who's in charge in their life, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say that Aries is a pretty visible ruler in your chart. And, the thing that I noticed about your chart, Risa, is the lack of water between the Sun and Cancer. And I know you've got that Pisces rising, but I think that somehow the invocation of water in the feminine is also really important in your chart, in your life. And there's various ways you can experience that or bring that into your life. Some of them are very basic, like just bringing bowls of flowers with water in your living space, making sure you're hydrated. But there's also kind of the more metaphysical sort of components to that as well in terms of flow. Because I've seen my mother, who has 3 planets in Aries, she doesn't always flow very well. She gets caught up in the moment and doing things her way. And I think because you've got a Pisces rising, you probably have a better beat on that. But there's also, this ability to, I'm sorry, you have the Mars and Scorpio. You do have that in terms of water. But other than that, I think that in your early planets, bringing more water into your chart and staying, in this flow is I think it's important for you, and to not get hung up and snagged in the moments, because I've seen also Aries people get snagged in the moment sometimes.
Yeah, that's for sure. My wife's an Aries, and I have a lot of Aries family.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you finish up your show. Sorry for taking more time, but thanks again, Robert. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. We can find you on Blog Talk, right?
Yeah, I have a show coming up right after yours.
Okay. Go find him, Rissa. He's there. Want to hear some more about astrology? Go support his Jupiter in his second house.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, I'll see you later.
All right.
Hello there.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. You're at the end of the show. I'm
sorry.
Can
you hear me?
Yes.
This is T from SoCal. You know who I am.
What's happening?
What's that?
What's
Hold
happening?
On. Okay, you're off speaker. Is it better?
It is better, yeah.
Okay.
So this is we're at the end of the show.
I know.
So let me just do this quickly. Let me just say to everybody who called in today, thank you for calling in. And everybody have just an amazing, wonderful equinox. Stay in balance. Don't let anybody knock you off your center, and keep your heart open and your mind clear, and you'll be just fine. So thank you for doing it. All right, T, let's get down.
Hey, yeah, thanks for taking my call. I was listening on the phone because I kept getting knocked off or whatever in your chat room. I was just in as a guest, but the show kept going on and off on the computer, and then I tried it on my phone. My iPhone couldn't get you.
Yeah.
So I decided to call in and listen in, and then I thought, okay, well, if he answers, I'll say hi and just let you know. I missed the beginning of the show, so I didn't quite hear much about the equinox. I was looking forward to that. I don't know how much you mentioned about it, what it all.
I talked a fair amount about it, and I talked a little bit about, the division of light, night and day, how it's, everywhere across the planet the sun rises and sets at the same time, things like that. So I got into it a fair amount.
Interesting, because it kind of brought up the whole light-dark thing, yin-yang, like that one caller was talking about, and so I wanted to kind of brush on that. I was thinking about it lately. I think I was on Facebook this morning, and I saw somebody's page. He's an artist, and ironically, his last name's Black. I can't think of his first name right now. He had a posting, a picture on his page, I guess, of his art, and I would say it was really strange. It was just this, of course, in a square photo, and 1/3 of the square was white, and I would say the other 2/3 were black, and that was his art. I'm thinking, this is kind of weird. What kind of a message is this,
Yeah.
And then the whole thing, about the equinox and the light and the dark. And then just lately I've been thinking about duality and, the yin-yang. And, me, I like to study a little esoterica now and then, but not, I don't really know much. And just trying to figure out on my own, don't know any Freemasons or anything like that to guide me, or not that I would probably want that. But I was watching TV the other day. I flipped on, a show that's popular with teenagers especially, and I guess any age for women, the Kardashian show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, man, just watching it for like 10 minutes, I tell you, it seemed like all I saw was the black-white theme that they used,
Yeah. Yeah.
The floor in the background with the black and white checkerboard squares.
Right.
They had a big portrait, I guess their family portrait, which you probably already have seen it, that was in the background of their Christmas card portrait or whatever. Yeah. And then just the clothes they wear on the show, which is really in style right now for young women. If you go to any store, especially, stores like Macy's and such, you're going to get the designers are all doing the black and white for the women. I mean, it's like everything. The prints are that I don't know what they call it, like a French toile or something, but it's real popular.
Yeah, look at the daughters, Khloe Kardashian married Lamar Odom, who's black. Kim Kardashian, her boyfriend is Kanye West, who's black. So it even spills over into their sexual relations and marital relations. So you're right. You're totally on it. The mom, she's actually from a very wealthy East Coast family, the Hufflin family. So it's not Hufflin, Houghton, the Houghton family, Houghton, and you probably have heard of Houghton Mifflin. They're publishers. So she comes from a very wealthy publishing family, and so I don't know. I don't think Houghton is a bloodline family, but certainly it is a very old East Coast European moneyed family. So, mom is really connected. And the mom is, she's told that they're into 11 symbolism, too. All the girls have 11, KK. Kim Kardashian, 11, so that's 22. Khloe Kardashian, KK, that's 44. Yeah. And then you have the other one, Courtney, that's another 22. So that's 66. So
I never.
6, which is 33 times 2.
Sure. I never studied her first husband, the lawyer. I guess.
Bobby Kardashian Bobby Kardashian is Armenian. He's part of the Southern California Armenian mafia.
Okay.
And he's a lawyer, a very good friend of O.J. Simpson's.
Right.
And apparently O.J. Simpson has left Khloe Kardashian in his will. So
there's rumors going around that he could be her father, which I don't know.
Jay Simpson might be Khloe Kardashian's dad.
I don't know about that, but you never know.
I don't think Bobby Kardashian is her dad.
Oh, really?
Well, you look at Kim and you look at Courtney, and they're both very Semitic looking, and she's not.
That's
true.
Tall.
Yeah.
She's taller and a little lighter. Yeah, the other two daughters are darker eyes. Yeah, and the brother too. Yeah. Well, never know, but that's, I'm not too concerned with their lives and all, just that when you watch the show, you get all this black and white everywhere, if you really tune into it or if you're sensitive like I am. And
so the producer of the Kardashians is Ryan Seacrest. And Ryan Seacrest has quickly become one of the richest people under the age of 35 in the United States. He's like the new Merv Griffin.
Right. He was Merv Griffin's little pet, wasn't he? Or
he's probably Merv Griffin's lover. Merv Griffin was dead. So he was probably Merv Griffin's lover. And if you go back, this is really interesting. And then I have to jump off because I got to do an interview with somebody in South Africa in about 5 minutes.
Sure.
But what's really interesting is that when you go back to the first episode of American Idol, right? And you know this whole thing about Gemini that I've been getting into.
Right.
And twins and doubles and clones as a matrix model of reality. What did they have for the very first season of American Idol? They had 2 co-hosts, and they were both named Ryan.
Oh, I didn't watch. I don't know.
True. There was Ryan Dunkelman and Ryan Seacrest.
Ah, interesting.
And Ryan Dunkelman basically was sacrificed for Ryan Seacrest. So we have the whole sacrifice of the twin, right? Which takes place in the first episode of American Idol.
Wow.
Or the first season of American Idol. So anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
Rest American Idol.
Well, I wanted to talk more esoteric, but I mean, it's, just where this whole black-white thing is going, and do they use, of course, the dark forces want to overpower the light forces, but we just want to keep it in balance, right? I mean, I think that's most people's feeling, but I think it goes so much more beyond that, which I just would love to learn about, the whole thing with Saturn, and Saturn denotes a black square. What is,
right,
there's a lot of meaning there.
Yeah.
And how that is used, and I mean, this just goes through into universal things that, I'm sure many don't even know about, just how the universe works and really what's out there, what kind of, if there's other, well, we all know that there has to be life on other planets and but really how it's all working together in conjunction and what it means for planet Earth. That's what's really kind of interesting to think about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, it's far out there, I know, but it is Sag Moon today. And I did hesitate to talk because it's scaring my son.
For you, it's fascinating every day. Come on.
I know, every day is fascinating. I can find, fascination turning on the Kardashian show. So that's where I'll let you go.
It's all out there. It's all out there. It's all hidden in plain sight. And
it is. I know. Where's it going? That's what I want to know. But anyway, you keep us posted to where it's going. That's what we love. We love listening to your show and reading your blogs. You keep us posted.
Well, I have a lot of not only, great listeners and followers of the blog, but people that contribute as well. It's like this is a group effort.
Yeah.
And it's, and there's a lot of people that collaborate on Facebook, and
I loved Freeman being on your show. I had to get that in real quick. That was awesome. Yeah.
He was totally great. I love having Freeman on.
Love Freeman. Oh man, I could just tell you two would hit it off. Oh, he's somebody that I guess everyone wants to be his best friend. He's just so fun.
I want to have him back on the show. And here's what I want to do the next time I have him on the show. I don't really want to talk about esoterica with him. I want to find out about his childhood.
Sure, yeah.
You growing up, Freeman. What did you do?
Mhm.
Who are your best friends? What was that?
Definitely. What's your astronatal chart?
Well, he's a Cancer. He's a Cancer with a Taurus moon.
Okay, yeah, that was another thing when Cancer, I think Latrice was talking, I was just feeling for Cancers because I love Cancers. You know me, I'm a Pisces water sign, and Cancers are my favorite, and just my heart goes out to all Cancers who are struggling right now because I know someone very close to me with a Cancer moon, and God bless her, she's only 20, and she's just getting hit so hard. I don't even want to talk about it because I'll start crying. Yeah. But she has 2 years of this to go, and I just hope she can make it through. It's really been tough, and but Cancers can be tough, right? They got that outer shell, and so they have protection, and just want them all to know how much everyone loves them because it's important that they're important on this planet. They're here for a reason, and we need them. We need them here, especially now.
Yeah,
so Pluto's going to test them, but like you said, they're going to come out of it and even stronger, and that's when things are going to get really wonderful and just. I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we will get that. We're going to do our own artwork and paint it all white, or with just a strip of black. There's going to be get rid of the darkness. We don't need it. We need the light. The light is where it's at.
I have a new nickname for you now.
Oh no.
Mother Teresa.
Oh no! Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. Please. My kids call me that at times just for fun, and I'm like, no. No comparison there. But thank you, and thanks for taking my call, and I'll try to get on and stay grounded here.
All right, love you, T.
Love you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that's it. If you're listening now, you're listening to the podcast, not the stream. And I want to thank everybody for calling in. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix. Go out and find some balance.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu. Perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words, I submit that these impressions are valid and significant. And I will even say this, such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.